All right, so it's been a while since I just did like an energy check. I always say to people, "Oh, I'm the devil," and it's like kind of a joke, but I'm actually not joking. That when you're IMing people or like texting them or emailing them, like you've got mail, right? It's like the old AOL, I think, notification. You'd log into your AOL account and it would be like, "You've got mail." Um, Now that we've got Game of Thrones and things like that, understand what that means when you're informing a AI system about who you are. Okay, that's kind of the point. People will use whatever methodology that they can to try to get into your life, right? And if we were thinking about internationally, espionage or spycraft, right? Um, One of the more important aspects of that would obviously be having a covert, which is not a very obvious means of ascertaining information. Okay. When you think about sending people emoji, kind of gift, I'm talking about GIF, like a GIF file where it's GIF file. You know what I'm talking about. Or when you think about all the functions that are automatically uploaded onto the apps on your phone, there's a real crossroads that people are going to have to meet themselves at. The people that you've gossiped about, the things that you've done inadvertently. There's now out of Sweden, there's an implant. Okay, you can get implanted, and it's supposed to make your life more convenient. Okay, so it's supposed to be the convenience of having everything literally at your fingertips. Um, but people are calling it the mark of the beast because one of the things that is actually included with this implant that you get on the back of your hand is the ability to access your bank accounts, your ID, your health records, all of the information that would pertain to you personally, okay? And including your credit cards, your credit history, all that. So you could just swipe your hand and pay for something instead of having to carry a phone around. That, in conjunction with other advancements that have been made, just have a really they just have a really big responsibility that people need to take for themselves at this point. Okay. Um, the other thing that this implant can do is kind of like having a Fitbit watch on at all times. It can review your heart rate, how frequently you're breathing, and in that way, you got like this life alert kind of presence that is implanted into your body. Okay. And I'm actually not criticizing. I'm just sharing observations. And this is the energy check in that I would like to do for the collective, in order for people to start thinking about that because it's going to be something within our lifetime that will happen. Most definitely. There's no doubt in my mind about it. If it was already thrown around as an idea, then I'm not saying anything that's not already out there. Okay. This is might have been a more sheltered. I don't know if you guys can see that. It might have been more of a sheltered or a covered or a more privatized industry at this point. But for sure, it's something that is people are happily subscribing to. And I'm guessing that it's the people who are more willing to kind of be the sunflower in a bed of prickly thorns or whatever. The people who have integrity, the people who have um, pure, I don't want to say pure thought processes because it's not about that. Something just fell out. So death just wanted to show up, and then this happiness fell on the table. It's almost like if you were to die right now, would you be okay with the thoughts that were going through your head, the way that you were treating other people, the information that you've tapped into legally or illegally? I mean, that's something that people would need to think about. If this thing is able to track your movements in terms of GPS, there would be, if you think about that movie with Tom Cruise, with the precogs Minority Report, that little implant is going to be um, the thing that reports most of what is going on, including your thought processes. So if your heart rate gets elevated at certain points, maybe it would trigger Interpol to start listening to your conversation, or if you've got a Neuralink, perhaps they would tap into your thoughts to see what it is that you're so upset about. It is a tactical mechanism, and it is for monitoring people. So I don't know if there are Komodo monitors, lizards. Monitors are sometimes called lizards. Um, People need to kind of think about or prepare themselves. And I'm not saying this to be intimidating or rude or out of line or out of pocket. I'm like I said, you could look up Dolly the Lamb by yourself and figure out when the cloning process began. If you know already that the military is at least 8 years ahead of whatever technologies are already available, then this should not be a big shock to you. Like 8 to 20 years ahead. If they let things out slowly, bit by bit, and I do literally mean like megabits and bytes and all that, they can charge you. They can charge you as the general public for that information trickle down. The trickle down effect from the top to the bottom, okay? And although that benefits a lot of people who don't have conflict with what they're texting, who they're hanging out with, what they're saying, thinking, or doing. I think that's the definition that Gandhi gave. When those things are in line, then you're a well-balanced human. Yeah, there's a 10 of swords. Or excuse me, 7 of swords. It's a sneak peek. I don't know why this camera wants to, there we go. It's a sneak peek. You see her peeking? It's a game of peekaboo. So there's nothing to be ashamed of or scared of if you're not doing anything out of place or out of pocket, I want to say. But that definition is typically defined by general society and therefore enforced by the government if we're going to, in an ideally democratic world, right? The place where I think we really get ourselves into a pickle or into a jam is when we've only got two sides of a story. Okay, other countries, not America, have prime ministers, and those prime ministers run in circles with multiple other parties at one time. It's a multiverse versus a dualistic kind of thing. Yeah, here's the Empress coming out. They've got more than two, I want to say, nodes of power. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking about the two sides of your brain coming together. Typically, if you're right-handed, then you're using the left side of your brain. If you're left-handed, you're using the right side of your brain. There's a cross section, which is why I said there's a meeting at the crossroads that needs to kind of happen for people before this happens. And it may happen, like I said, sooner than later. It's a shot that is about like it's about the size of a grain of sand. So it's important to think about these things when we're thinking about medicinal use. And yeah, here's the Page of Cups. She's walking towards this. You see the moon in the background there? She's walking towards this union that's in the middle. So when you think about going to work and you have a problem, you want to go on strike, right? You typically run to your union and they help you orchestrate that entire thing, try to keep the balance between employer and employee, which are the two polarized sides of kind of the way government is set up right now. The union is the third party. Okay, so when you say, even when you're going to get married, it's you, your significant other, and the authority with which you're going to be doing that. Like maybe it's an archdiocese, maybe you're just going to the courthouse. And as a Virgo, I can tell you there's a lot of energy that goes along with organizations associating with that. That would no longer be something that necessarily, there's already bump technology. If I want to airdrop something to somebody, I can do that, right? If I don't remember which, let me look it up. Because I don't know. I don't remember which phones. They already have bump transfer. You can bump your phones together and you transfer a picture, a video, a piece of information, a contact. Yeah, look, this is what it says about bump technology. So it says the bump technology, originally developed for transferring data between phones by physically bumping them together, was primarily implemented in the Bump app, which is supported by both iPhones, and Android devices. So iPhones and Androids can both do that already. While Google later acquired Bump and integrated some of its features into Google Photos and Android Camera, the Bump app itself was discontinued. Discontinued how? How was it discontinued? On a continuum between left and right, right and left, and then incorporation of the middle, if we're going to just clap our hands or snap our fingers and there's a transfer of energetic technology, that's what's basically about to show up in your hand or wherever this technology is installed. If we've already had it in the past, it means we've got the capability to do it now. We could just do it now. I mean, I'm sure that what one man's trash is another man's treasure in a very big sense. Think about people's credit cards, how they've got these special cases that people can put their credit cards in that are, magnetized to protect the information on the credit card because people were using phones to run into each other. You bump into someone on the street, the bus, at work, anywhere really, at the grocery store. And suddenly there's this magical transfer of information. This is the magic stream, which I'm not using that. I just picked this up and this is from an old reading. But it kind of goes along with the stream of information. It's the same thing if you were thinking about the stream of consciousness, as it were. If you got a Neuralink or if you've got a bump technology downloaded on your phone, on your device, what good would that do for the world if it wasn't utilized pretty regularly. There's moonlight in the reverse. So archdiocese, that's a darker kind of sect of the world that might not really like having their privacy invaded, but it would be very helpful in finding out, who these altar boys are encountering, or who these major pastors and preachers and people in power, where's that money that is being tithed? Where's the money going? That's why I said it's darker. I don't mean literally as in like the color. I'm talking about as in the darker uses that could be beneficial. See these two bumping lips. You get to take a sneak peek. Let's say that you're married. You do get married, right? If this technology is installed in you, maybe you can have access to the knowledge, the information about whoever your significant other is cheating with. There's ghost lands in the reverse. That's that dark technology. So the archdiocese or your pastor, your preacher, you would agree when you got married, okay, well, we're going to premarital counseling, right? And as soon as we go to premarital counseling, we're agreeing that both of our chips will be uploaded to our pastor because we really trust him and he's our therapist and blah, blah, blah. Right? As soon as you cheat, it would be no secret to your pastor, your preacher, whatever governmental, if you just had like a government therapist, all that information would get uploaded and you'd be forced to talk about it at the next session. We'll phrase it like that. They would have an inside look at who you're being romantic with, inside look about who your coworkers are, inside look about where you're located at any given time. All of that information, plus the ability that they already have to really like tap your phone, listen in on calls, go through your text messages, all that. It would no longer be a ghost land. This would be a very well populated place because of social media, because of all the access that we really have just given the government our information. It's what you do every time you upload something onto a platform. You're informing the platform and also the algorithm about who you are, what you're doing. Maybe you're emoting some type of emoji that emotionally were banned from being able to express otherwise. People could actually set up an entire stage full of kind of Truman Show-esque espionage. There's a compass coming out with the Empress. That's the point. This is 50, number 50. So they'd be policing your friends, your family, your everything. Every time you were to get injured, every time that you were to check your mailbox even, they could see that movement. Google Earth is pretty accurate. They can take pictures of every single street down to the most minute detail. And depending on how accurate the cameras, how accurately tuned the cameras are at any given moment, they can see into deep space already. So what makes us think that they cannot see the things that happen behind closed doors? It's just something to think about. This is what's behind closed doors. That's the doorway. That's the moon. Here's the moonlight with the Two of Cups. All the dishonesty, all the people are going to have the most problem with this are the ones that have not lived their life in a very conducive way. If you've thought about this idea of, is there a heaven, is there a hell? If you believe in the afterlife, maybe if you believe in reincarnation, the idea of angels and demons and yada, yada, yada. There's a book called Dante's Inferno by Dan Brown. Actually, a really good book. It's wide open. This is number 42. It's about the precipice between what we know, what we don't know. It's got kind of a national treasurer feel to it, where people are chasing this dream or this unattainable tidbit of information about hidden secret societies. And at the end of the book, sorry, spoiler alert if you don't want to know what happens, they find out that there's been something put in the water that basically sterilizes a large portion of people in the world, and that there's a Prost that has been the one willing to do that. This is number 39, cooperation, and this is number 11, willingness. So if we think about three different, I don't know why I'm just saying 3, 9, 11. I could talk about 311. I could talk about 911. There's when you call 911 right now, as things currently are, you're either calling the police, you're calling an emergency medical technician, which is EMT, like an ambulance, or you're calling the fire department. That's what the dispatcher has to ascertain. They've got to determine which one of those professionals are necessary given the catastrophe at hand. And I just want to say that there would be like a way more immediate response time for all of those things if this mark of the beast was installed. Humans would actually come across a lot like robots. And at the moment, the only robotics that we have are technologies. Human DNA is plasma based. It's a cooperation card that really wants to be out here, so we'll take it as the head of the reading. It's plasma. Your DNA is plasma, and so is the screen, every single screen that you look at. So the camera is feeding a device, and that device is then projecting to you whatever it wants to project. Everything that is recorded is not projected because they edit it out. They chop and screw a lot of things, not just songs. They chop and screw. Think about a reality TV show. If you were to see every second of every day, you would be bored. What they tend to present are the juicy tidbits, the parts of the interactions with or between people that don't actually sit well with something. So when thinking about the way that society would be visioned or envisioned or viewed, how we would keep them in our sights, right? That's the that's the black, look, I think I just mentioned the dark moon. That's the part of this that's a little bit darker. It doesn't have to be, but it depends on your mindset. Nobody would have a problem with Minority Report being the case unless their thoughts, their feelings, their actions had somehow violated that trickle down in a way that was really negative for everyone else. But if it could if this implant or this part of self could actually be medicinally used to heal society, to make people just a little bit more honest, to upkeep the honor of those people who have really who pray 100% of the day, but they just can't seem to get ahead, or the people who don't deserve to be treated the way that they are, or people who have been victims of crime. I'm just remembering The Brave One with Jodie Foster. That's the medicinal way that this is used. Otherwise, this hierarchy could be really abused. So the information staying confidential, I don't think that has much to do with anything at this point. We've not had confidential exchanges for a while, and the information that we have been given has been thwarted, edited, reordered so many different times that it's hard to know. Even if you're talking about a text, right? Like the Bible. No offense if you're into this religious sect kind of thing, but it's been written and rewritten in multiple different languages. Same thing with the Torah, the Quran, and all the books out there, the holy books, the every single piece of literature that is worldwide, textbooks used in classrooms around the world, romance novels that take off. I'm sure 50 Shades of Grey was written in I don't know how many different languages. On average, we probably translate things for each other, not only, verbally, but emotionally, I don't know how many times a day. The small nuances of the look in someone's eye, we were talking about the vision, the inflections that people use, given their accent versus their meaning, like the intention behind the words, the things the way that we hear things. If I'm sending a text message or an I am to somebody and I'm like, I'm the devil, ha ha ha, because I did something mean to somebody earlier today or something like that, they could actually take that as literally she's possessed. She thinks she's literally the devil. You know what I mean? Or they could take it as, oh my God, I'm dying laughing. I'm dead. People say that all the time when they're laughing out loud so hard that they can't stop LMFAO. It's really that simple. The interactions are going to become charged. And I do literally mean charged. Like you put this thing on a charger, you put your devices on chargers. That's a wire. So if you think about like Kanye West through the wire, he got shot through the jaw, right? And then got his jaw wired shut for a while to heal up. But he was still rapping, he was still speaking, he was still expressing the way that he felt. So he was talking about, my voice is traveling through the wire. That's the same thing that I'm talking about here. I don't want to make this like, this is not a scary thing unless you're a scary person. In which case, continue to be scared. But you should really not live your life in fear. That does not serve anybody, including and probably mostly yourself. I'm going to leave the soulmate card at the top of the deck here. So we've got the Two of Pentacles, we've got the Moonlight, we've got the Cooperation, and the Soulmate. And that is what is here. Here's a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough. There's a lot of information that you can get about even your animals when they're chipped. They can find your address just by scanning wherever the chip is. They can find out about their immunization records by scanning the chip. If they can do that to an animal, what makes humans think that they can't do that to us? Yeah, that's that's my point, is I don't want to make this about, this is not supposed to be intimidating. It's not supposed to be like to cause fear or panic. It's just something to think about. And it's something to wonder, would I be okay with that? Would I want my children to have that done to them? How is this going to behoove future? This is breakthrough again. This really wants to be out here. How is that going to behoove future generations? Like, if you got 3 generations of women sitting here instead of just 3 different aspects of parliament, the dualistic kind of, never mind. This is not a solo journey anymore once we've all integrated together like that. Every receipt that you receive from purchasing something on your credit card or tapping your hand in this specific case, that information gets uploaded too, so they would know exactly what you eat, which means they know your exact composition, like your elemental composition, your essence itself could be figured out. That could be done. That could be done. There's just there's a need for there to be vigilant, that there's a healing mechanism that goes along with that, but that then there's a very like kind of harsh truth that goes with that medicine. It's a hard pill to swallow. That's all I'm saying. So I am gonna leave this here. That was kind of a strange rant. I don't think it was supposed to be a rant. It just something that was on my mind, and I wanted to, for lack of a better term, reflect on the energies that seem to be simmering out there. I'm hearing someone say, simmer down now. It's the same thing. Just something to kind of food for thought.